can we really go 2 days without talking about the quarterbacks? Can we make it 2 days? We talked about the defense yesterday. Can we do something different today just to keep mixing it up a little bit and give you some different perspective on some different topic related to Pitt football? We can and we will. We got running backs and O-line on tap today. Lots of question marks about those two groups. Lots of confusion, I think, about those two groups. And we'll see if we can find some answers about those two groups on the Morning Pitt on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. All right, it's Thursday. It's the Morning Pitt. It's youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. And I'm Chris Peak from Panther-Lair.com. You see the website below, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. The most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet, football, basketball, and recruiting. Everything you need to know about Pitt sports and to stay up to date on everything related to Pitt sports. And, of course, message boards to interact with hundreds and thousands of other Pitt fans all day, every day. Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. If you want to stay, you want to know what's going on and you want to talk to other Pitt fans, that's the best place to do it. Panther-Lair.com. And our YouTube channel here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Like this video and subscribe so you never miss any of our Pitt video content. You know the deal, yada, yada, yada. It's not a blah, 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 but I mean, you know what we do here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We put out a new Morning Pitt video every day of the week, Monday through Friday, to give you a little Pitt sports talk to start your day. We have our weekly live show like we did last night at 8:30 p.m., a little hour of Pitt talk with Jim Hammett and me. And then, of course, we have our post-game show. It'll be a late one on Saturday night, but I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you'll be there. We'll have a good time, probably start around 1 in the morning or something like that and talk Pitt sports for an hour. We should, we'll have fun with that. We'll have fun with that for sure. All right, it's day 2 of not talking about the quarterback situation, just taking a little bit of a break from it, although, I did notice that the videos that we did that we talked about the quarterback situation had much better numbers than the videos that we did when we didn't talk about the quarterback situation. But I need a break from it. I know the topic isn't going away, and I know it's really relevant. And hell, I mean, later today we're going to sit down with Pat Narduzzi for his Thursday press briefing, and you know what I'm going to ask about? I'm going to ask about the quarterbacks. I don't think it's going to be any surprise. A lot of people are going to ask about the quarterbacks. The conversation's not going away. The topic is not going away. It's going to be relevant. It's going to be relevant today, tomorrow, and certainly Saturday night. But for right now, I don't have anything more to say about it. I haven't had any new thoughts about it. I haven't had any new revelations about it. I haven't talked to anyone who's given new perspective that changed my mind on things. What I said on Monday and probably what I said on Tuesday. I think I talked about on Tuesday as well, kind of reacting to what Pat Narduzzi said about it in his Monday press conference. What I said on Monday and Tuesday, what I said in the postgame show, still my thought. And sometimes you come out of a game, you have certain reactions and thoughts and responses, and then you talk to people over the course of the week, people around the program or people who are smarter than you, people whose opinions you respect, and those people offer different perspectives, and your opinions can change, and that's understandable. You get new information, new things come to light. You might not have been privy to all of it to begin with, but then you start to get a different perspective on things, and your opinion can shift or change. That hasn't happened this week. Not in the least. If anything, the conviction has grown even stronger that the coaching staff has to look at a potential change at the quarterback position. But again, we said that Saturday night, we said it Monday, we said it Tuesday. Yesterday, I just wanted to change course a little bit and talk about the defense, just to break things up a little bit, and not just to break things up, but because there are relevant topics to consider with the defense. The depth at linebacker, which is being greatly tested right now. The rotation at safety, which, was heavy rotation against Wofford, a little less, but very interesting against Cincinnati, and then no rotation whatsoever against West Virginia. I think we're going to see a situation where P.J. O'Brien plays a lot more against North Carolina on Saturday night. Donovan McMillan will still get snaps. It'll be interesting to see if Steph Hall gets into the mix. But I think we'll see more rotation on Saturday night than we saw, certainly than last Saturday, and maybe even rivaling or surpassing the rotation we saw against Cincinnati. That's a relevant topic. What's missing from the defensive line? That's a relevant topic. What does that group need to do? And I'll say, just to sort of wrap up that conversation, the last 2 weeks, Pitt's opponents have run the ball like 90 times or something. The pass rush is going to be called on far more this week than it was the last 2 weeks. It's going to be even greater of it's going to be of even greater importance this week than it was the last 2 weeks. And I think all of those things are relevant topics. Those are all things that we should consider and talk about as you head toward this game against North Carolina on Saturday night. Likewise, I think we need to talk about the running backs and the offensive line. And I've talked about the running backs, I think, each of the last 3 weeks and the running back situation and what they did. And Rodney Hammond only had like 1 touch or whatever it was against Wofford. And each of the backs only had 6 carries against Cincinnati. And then this past week, the West Virginia game, you saw sort of a separating of sorts, at least in the carry distribution. Rodney Hammond got 14, Sebo Flemister got 6, Daniel Carter got 4. And so you started seeing Rodney Hammond being emphasized as the number 1 back. But what continued from the Cincinnati game was that every other drive rotation of Hammond takes the first drive, Sebo Flemister takes the second, then Hammond, then Flemister, then Hammond, then Flemister, with exceptions made if you have a really long drive. I mean, that first drive at West Virginia, bring up my trusty legal pad here. The first drive at West Virginia, Rodney Hammond, of course, started it, but they go like 12 plays or whatever it is. So Sebo Flemister is going to get a couple snaps on that, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 plays, excuse me. Sebo Flemister is going to get a few snaps in there just to give Rodney Hammond a little bit of a breather. That's understandable on a longer drive like that. They also had exceptions made when they went into like the end of the first half. They got the ball back with like 4:45 or 5 minutes or something like that to go. And they went with Daniel Carter because Carter has been serving as the third down back for the last 2 games, for the 2 real games. I mean, we're not counting Wofford, right? So Carter's been serving as the third down back in those games, and it stands to reason that if they feel like he's the best option in a passing situation, which most third downs are going to be, then when you get the ball with 4 minutes to go, which I guess for Pitt's, slow developing offense, that's effectively, the equivalent of a 2-minute drive. When they're in that situation, they went with Daniel Carter as the primary back as well. Again, I guess, even though they handed off the first two plays of that drive, looking at, probably more passing situations. Andre Powell said on Tuesday that Carter's a little bit better at kind of picking up the blitz and seeing the exotic packages. He called them exotic pass rush packages that Cincinnati and West Virginia both were using. And so Carter was a better option on third down in the view of the coaching staff. Coming out of the Cincinnati game, I hated that rotation. I hated going Hammond, Flemister. And part of it was because they had some short drives. And so I didn't really feel like Rodney Hammond in particular and any of the backs was really getting a chance. Rodney Hammond's first drive against Cincinnati, they go 3 and out. So Sebo Flemister comes out on the second drive. They go 3 and out. So they go back to Hammond on the third drive. Now, I don't think you really gave either one of those backs a chance to get going when they're only going 3 and out. Rodney Hammond didn't even carry the ball on the first drive. Sebo Flemister got 2 carries on the second drive. And when they finally gave Hammond the ball for an actual handoff, finally on the 1, 2, 3, 4th play of the third drive of the game, he bounces it outside and goes for 11 yards. It's as old as time that running backs need consistent carries to get rolling. It's a football cliche that dates back years, that good running backs need, or any running backs, need to kind of get into a rhythm and get going with a consistent workload. And it doesn't mean they can't bust a long run on their first carry, but it helps to stay on the field and get into a rhythm. And when you go 3 and out, I don't care if your plan was to switch backs every drive, but when you go 3 and out, I think you probably need to keep your number 1 back out there, your starting back out there for the second drive. I know your plan was to go back and forth, but I think you're doing both guys a disservice if you don't give them an opportunity beyond a 3 and out to come back out on the next drive and keep working and try to find something and try to establish something. So I didn't like it against Cincinnati. I hated it a little bit less. I actually didn't hate it at all against West Virginia. And maybe it's because they were able to put together a couple extended drives. I mean, they picked up on the first drive, they picked 1, 2, 3, 4 first downs on the first drive of the game. Second drive, when they brought in Sebo Flemister, they didn't get a first down on that one, although he had a long run that part of it came back on a holding. I think it was a long run. Yeah, part of it came back on a holding, but I didn't hate the rotation there because I actually think Sibo Flemister's a pretty good back. If it's me, I'm still giving Rodney Hammond. I'm still doing the Penn State deal, right, of 2 for 1. I'm still going Hammond with 2 drives and then Flemister with 1 and alternating that way if it's me. But I feel a little bit better about a rotation of sorts because I think Sibo Flemister is a pretty quality back who can make plays. If anything really needs to change, if any snaps need to be decreased or increased, and it's no disrespect to the young man because he seems like a nice kid and he's a team player and he's a good program guy, I think Daniel Carter's numbers need to probably come down. And whether that's third down, whether that's a drive at the end of the half, I guess if he's your best pass blocking running back, then that's the guy you have to go with in those situations. I want the guys who can make plays. And I'm not saying that Daniel Carter couldn't make plays. He had 4 or 5 targets in that game on Saturday night at West Virginia, and he caught 1, but that wasn't necessarily his fault. I mean, he had some one-hopped passes, some passes thrown over his head. But I want the guys who are going to give me a chance to make plays or give me the best chance to make plays. And I think the guys who give you the best chance to make plays are Rodney Hammond and Sibo Flemister. And even, you talk about Daniel Carter, he's the best at pass blocking and this and that. In that game on Saturday, he had 9, according to Pro Football Focus, 9 pass block snaps. Out of his 26 total snaps, he stayed in to pass block 9 times. And as opposed to running 10 routes. So there was a couple of times where he's credited with a run blocking snap, and that was probably when Phil Dracovic might take off and run and scramble. But if we just don't count those, if we just count the pass routes and the pass blocking, you've got 19 total snaps, and on 10 of those 19, he's out running. So he's not even staying in to block all that much. Or I would say enough to merit him playing in that role. If you're going to send your third down back out on passing routes more often than not, then you might as well get the guys out there who can really make plays. And Daniel Carter's a good player. I'm not saying he's a bad player. But the guys who can really make plays, the guys who can positively impact the game, and you need every bit of positive help you can get, those guys are Rodney Hammond and Sibo Flemister, and in that order. So you go into this game against North Carolina, and I can understand aiming for some preservation for Rodney Hammond, not trying to wear him down or wear him out or put too many hits on his body and risk him getting injured. So I understand rotating Sibo Flemister in. I think you still need to increase the snaps and the carries, the touches for Rodney Hammond, and that they need to come away from Daniel Carter. I mean, I think that's probably what needs to happen. Because I think at this point with their offense, they need to look at every position and find out how they can maximize production. I think they need to find the higher ceiling. They can't play for the higher floor at this point. It's got to be the highest possible ceiling. And the guys who, give you the best chance there at every position except for quarterback. At quarterback, I think they need to be looking for the highest floor. Everywhere else, they need to find the guys with the highest ceiling. And if that's Kenny Johnson, if that's Rodney Hammond, if that's Sibo Flemister, if it's Montrevious Lloyd, if it's Konate Mumfield, whoever it is, you need to put them out there. And I would like to see Kenny Johnson out there on offense a little bit more. They obviously got him involved as a kick returner. I don't think he really got that many snaps on offense. Just kind of look at Pro Football Focus real quick. According to them, he played 3 offensive snaps at West Virginia. You might as well get him out there. You know what I mean? Like he's played in 3 games now, I believe, because I think he's been on the field in all 3. Yeah, he has. So you're 1 game away. Well, I guess he can play in 4 games and still redshirt. So you're clearly well on your way toward burning his red shirt. You might as well get him involved. Because if he's got the upside and he's got the ceiling, then he's the guy you need to be playing. Of course, that comes back to the quarterback question. I'm getting distracted from my no quarterback talk, edict. But it's hard to avoid because the quarterback position is so tied into everything, right? It's connected to the play of the running backs. It's connected to the offensive line, which we're going to talk about in a second. And obviously, when we start talking about Kenny Johnson, it's connected to that as well. But I think you got to play the upside. You got to find the guys who have the highest ceilings, who give you the best chance of making something happen offensively. And at running back, I think that's Rodney Hammond and Sebo Flemister with a gap till you get to Daniel Carter. And I don't want to completely eliminate Carter's role, but I really don't want to eliminate Sebo Flemister's role, because I do think he's a good back. I think he can help them. I really do. And so I'm not saying you need to give Rodney Hammond the ball 40 times. You don't need to run the wheels off. I think you do have to siphon some carries and some snaps and some touches away from Daniel Carter and give them to Rodney Hammond. I mean, he's got to be emphasized even more than he was this past week. Now, of course, a lot of it's going to come down to the offensive line. And, a question I've been asking myself a lot this week is, how did this offensive line go? Well, no, I mean, there's a few questions, actually, that I've been asking myself this week. One was, how was I really off base with this offensive line over the summer? Because I talked all summer about how the offensive line was the strength of the team and one of the strengths of the offense, and they were going to be, really good, and they were, blah, blah, blah. And it was one of the reasons why the offense should improve, is because the offensive line was going to be really good. Did I just blow that? And I don't think I did. I'll own up to it if I did. I'll keep receipts on myself far more than anyone else will. And I don't think I entirely blew that on the offensive line. I do think that I talked about the talent and the upside of that group and the experience that those guys had and how good they should be. But I think I also mentioned that, there's not a ton of experience depth, that I really liked where they were 1 through 6, but I wasn't sure about anybody beyond that. And really, number 6 being Ryan Baer, you're not entirely sure what he's going to be, although the ceiling, the expectations were sky high for him. You thought he might be, maybe, potentially, on talent at least, the best lineman on the team. I still think all of those things, but the depth got tested, and it got tested when Ryan Jacoby got hurt. And I think over the summer, what we said a lot of times was, look, if the depth gets tested, it could get a little dicey. Don't really know what to expect at that point. But if they can get through the season healthy, they should be really good. Well, they didn't get through the season healthy. They didn't even get to the season healthy. They lost Ryan Jacoby before the year started. And that brought in Jason Collier. And Jason Collier hasn't been very good. And Jason Collier was replaced by a true freshman in week 2. And Jason Collier had to step back into the starting lineup for that true freshman in week 3 and wasn't really very good again. And that's a problem. It's a problem if BJ Williams isn't ready to go, because BJ Williams showed signs of being a freshman when he played. And so either you're going to get Williams back and keep living with a true freshman on your starting offensive line, or he's not going to be ready to go, and you're going to be playing Collier again, who has struggled in the 2 games that he's played this season. Then you got the Metcalf-Salvez situation. He comes out of the West Virginia game. You have to bring Ryan Baer in at left tackle. I still think the world of Ryan Baer. I still think he's going to be a great player. He struggled in that game, there's no question. Young, inexperienced, coming off the bench. If Gonsalves can't go this week, now, Baer has had a whole week to really prepare as a starter. You'd like to think he'll potentially be better, but we'll see. But if Gonsalves can't go, if he's unavailable this week and or beyond, now you're down, 2 starters from that projected group of 5 that looked really good. A starting lineup left to right of Gonsalves, Jacoby, Jake Cradle, Blake Zabovic, Branson Taylor. I like that group. I think Taylor has kind of fallen a little bit below the line this season, but I like that group. I think that's a good offensive line. But if you take 2 guys out of it, you take your left side of the offensive line out of it, and now you're playing with backups or moving guys around to different positions, it's going to get dicey, and dicey is what it has been. For as much as the quarterback has struggled, he hasn't gotten the help that he needed up front. And I understand that, when the O-line protection breaks down, you could start getting jumpy. Quarterbacks get the yips, as they say, and start, hearing footsteps, seeing ghosts, all that stuff. And look, I said, coming out of the 2020 into 2021, I said the biggest thing Kenny Pickett needed to do was work on his pocket presence. Or when people ask me, where did Pickett improve the most in 21? I said, look, his pocket presence. He was jumpy in the pocket early in the first 4 years of his career. He was jumpy in the pocket. He didn't look comfortable in the pocket. He was itching to run. And he just didn't look settled back there. In 21, he would drop back and he was very settled and he was very comfortable. It's kind of like this year. In the preseason, Kenny was really comfortable, really settled in the pocket. 2 games, 2 regular season games, he hasn't been. He's been jumpy again. He's been skittish in the pocket. And sometimes that's because the protection has broken down and you're worried about breaking down. Sometimes it's because the protection is breaking down and you're running for your life. Phil Dracovic is suffering from some of that, I think. Probably. I mean, when you get under pressure like he has, and David Hale from ESPN had the tweet yesterday that Pitt's, near the bottom of the Power 5, or at the bottom, in percentage of dropbacks with the quarterbacks under pressure. So Phil Dracovic has been under pressure. Pat Narduzzi said it on Saturday or on Monday that they should be practicing with the quarterbacks under duress more. So that's been a problem. It doesn't excuse the quarterback play, but it certainly could help the quarterback play if the offensive line could block better. I'm just concerned that there may not be a lot of options there. I mean, when you look at when they needed one guy, they ended up going to a redshirt senior who struggled. And when they wanted to bench him and replace him with someone else, they went to a true freshman. That's doesn't speak well of the depth on the offensive line. And now they potentially could need 2 guys. You could have a starting lineup on Saturday night that's left to right left to right Bear, Zubovic, Cradle, BJ Williams, and Branson Taylor. It's a talented offensive line group. The top 5 guys, the starting 5, as they were envisioned to be over the summer, it's pretty good. And probably would have done a better job over these 3 games than what actually happened. But those injuries happen. That's part of it. And Pitt needs some guys to step up and improve their level of play really quick, or else it's going to be some more problems. So this has been pretty good. I mean, yesterday we talked about the defense and about all the struggles they're having there and the injuries and how they're not getting the pass rush they need up front and the safeties are rotating and the linebackers' depth is being tested and they're about to face one of the best offenses in the ACC. So that's cool, right? That's good. And then today we talk about how the running backs, that the rotation is confusing, that they're not really, doesn't seem to be playing to their strengths of personnel, and that the offensive line is kind of in trouble if they have 2 injuries here. So feeling pretty good. I got to say, this is probably giving you a good vibes on a Thursday. This is what happens in a losing streak. I mean, this is what happens when you, when you fall on hard times. That's part of it. That's part of it. We will talk to Pat Narduzzi later today. Should be interesting, and we'll see what the Pitt head coach has to say. We'll have that video here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. And then tomorrow we'll have our mailbag edition of the Morning Pitt, so tune in for that. You don't want to miss it. Those are always good. They're always fun, good questions, and hopefully good answers. I do my best on that one. So like this video and subscribe, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, and then head over to the website, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com to never miss any of our exclusive Pitt video content. YouTube.com/ or any of our Pitt coverage at Panther-Lair.com. I get mixed up on the taglines for these things. All right, like and subscribe. I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in today. It's been a lot of fun. As always, enjoy your Thursday, and then tomorrow is the end of the week. We made it. We made it. So have a good Thursday. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Morning Pitt here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.